We're off air.
Oh.
Now, traditionally, I think you have to start everything. We're going, are we live?
Yeah.
Are we live now? Are we?
It says live in the top corner.
Then we must be live then.
Hi.
Hello. Hi, everyone. Oh, there's a
Hi.
camera up there. Hello.
Hi.
Hi. Welcome to the first Needy Cat Hangout. This is different, isn't it? High five for doing this. This is a thing that we would like to do on a monthly basis from now on for primarily our backers on Patreon. Maybe talk a bit about why we're doing that later. Currently, it's for that, and then also we're going to share it out on YouTube for everyone else.
Yes, but they won't be able to ask us questions live. Although we've taken some questions from Twitter.
Yeah, we're still kind of we're trying to work out what the benefit is of being in the Patreon, what they get. They already get some other cool stuff.
Yeah.
But it would be nice to give them some extra things. I mean, part of it is being able to hang out and chat with us live. Surely that's. I mean, who can do that normally?
Sparkling personalities. So.
Yeah. I've got one of those. So yeah, hello everyone. Hi.
Shall we see if anyone's asking questions?
Oh yeah.
Use the computer, James.
Entertain the people while I use the computer.
This feels somehow, I don't know. Not right.
Maybe talk to them with your words. Use your words, Sophie.
Use my words. Hi, I'm Sophie. I'm one half of Needy Cat Games. And what I do is originally I started doing everything but games. And now I write games too. So I do everything.
It's true.
So shall I talk about who I am and where I came from? And
yeah, I would love to know.
Yeah.
I've been wondering for years.
Okay, so we
have a viewer.
Oh, that's exciting.
Isn't it exciting?
So yeah, what my background was I originally spent several years in Games Workshop retail many moons ago. And then we moved to Nottingham because we were originally living down south in London, which is really expensive. And it was a great experience, but that was kind of done. So we moved up to Nottingham with the hope that we'd be able to get into the gaming industry more because we are in the lead belt.
I'm hoping one day we actually will make it into the games industry. Any time now would be brilliant, really.
Yeah, and then I went back into the Games Workshop studio, publications, book and boxed games, whatever it's called.
The Book and Box Games Studio is what?
Studio. So the studio, the Games Workshop studio, and I worked as an art coordinator.
Well, not word coordinator.
No, art coordinator. Luckily, that's pictures, not words.
Can you describe it in hieroglyphs?
Probably. Where basically I did all of the management of all of the freelancers, which was at the time about 120 people, working over up to 10 simultaneous projects. That was really interesting. Was in on all of the sort of development of the art and the growth of the art, which meant I have really good IP knowledge as well of that particular world. And then after a couple of years of that, I went and worked in the licensing department for a while, which was really interesting, really fun, and I loved it. And then I flew the nest and now work for Needy Cat Games.
And briefly, you were an archaeologist as well.
I was. I'd spent a summer being an archaeologist because I hadn't done it in ages, and I felt it was what I was supposed to do when I first left uni because I did it for my degree, and it was awesome. But it's not so awesome when it gets cold.
You know what's weird is there are a lot of people in the games industry who either have archaeology degrees or there's some kind of archaeology link.
Yeah, I know.
Archaeology gaming, there's like a Venn diagram.
There is an overlap. It's really strange. Yeah, I know. I've actually met when I was leaving licensing. I actually met at least two other people who worked in that world. Who I worked with every day were like, oh, I did archaeology. It's like, totally a thing. And
now you're here.
And now I'm here.
Yeah. So I started Needy Cat back in July of last year, and then you've been kind of on board properly since about January.
Yeah, probably.
But when you were always there, kind of lurking in the background in the shadows.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. I've just noticed it still says party up there.
It's a permanent party.
It is.
It's always Needy Cat Games. It's always in party state.
Oh, is this flipped?
It is. It's a bit confusing.
I wonder though, is it flipped on our camera or is it flipped on the stream or both? Who knows? Well, Don't worry, it doesn't say it trap. It says party. If that's the case. That was from our Hellboy Kickstarter launch party. More on that later. So yeah, so that's Sophie. That's Sophie in a nutshell, isn't it? Really. That's where you've been the last.
If you can put me in a nutshell, then well done.
A large nut.
Yeah.
And me, yeah. So I'm James. You know me. Hopefully, some people that support us on Patreon know me as well. I write games for a living mostly. That's quite cool, isn't it? I've wanted to do that for a long time, and now I'm doing it. So, yeah, dreams do come true. Wasn't that a song?
Yes.
Dreams can come true.
Do you want to give us a quick précis of the games that you're known for?
Yeah, can do. Well, should I do a little rundown of what I've done, similar to how you did?
CV,
yeah, so
or what you did.
Yeah, so I started off in Games Workshop retail, as you were saying, as you did. As did I think about 2/3 of the games industry. I think most people have come through that particular trial by fire. And I worked in and around workshop stores for about 10 years, nearly, not quite 10 years. Because at 10 years you get a funky jacket, and I didn't get a funky jacket.
You had a break in the middle though.
I did. So I got a funky mug. You get a funky mug at 5 years. So
see, I left like a few months before the funky mug. That was.
Don't you get a chalice though?
I got a chalice. Well, no, I would have got a chalice.
For being a lady person.
Yeah. I already expressly requested a mug.
But yeah, so I got a big shiny tankard at home. Should probably bring it here, put it on the desk, put some pens in it or something. But I've got that, and so I was at Games Workshop retail for about 10 years, just under, doing kind of a mixture of store staff stuff, then onto management stuff, which is similar sort of part of me. You did that before I did. You outranked me for a fair bit.
For pretty much the whole time. Yeah.
And then left because, like I say, we were in London. We were like, London's a bit expensive. I think if you're poor but you've got time, you can find things to do. Yeah. And if you're rich but have no time, you'll find things to do. Yeah. We were broke and busy. Yeah. So
you're going to be time rich or money rich, or ideally both, really.
That's the same thing I said, but better. Yeah. There you go. See, you can do words.
I do words, but
you do words. So we left London and moved up here, and it's been a bit of a roller coaster since then. So as we were moving, I started some work on a game which became Dreadball for Mantic. In fact, if you're one of our Patreon backers, you would have seen the full story of that. Or if you're one of our new backers, you can go back and see the full story of that, because
started life
as Razordisc, which was picked apart brutally by me last month on the first episode of Into the Vaults, which is our little series we're doing for our Patreon backers, where I go through my big folder of everything I've ever worked on, pull out stuff, and just mercilessly mock it, basically. So I put the files that people can have a look at the files. If they want to, they can print it out and play the game. I mean, effort versus reward. I'm not sure it's entirely worth it, but if nothing else, you can see the standard of game I was writing when I first got into the industry, which I think is quite interesting. So I've got a thing. I don't know if we're gonna do this, but so we weren't sure how many people were going to come on this. It looks like we haven't got too many, to be fair, but we weren't expecting a huge crowd. We have got some questions on Twitter, but we thought if we run short, I might do a little preview of the next Into the Vaults, which is I've got a game, which it's the first role play game I ever wrote. And I did it having never played in a role-playing game. My first experience of role-playing games was the Games Day Coach, 1996 or 97, maybe, I think, when I overheard some bigger boys talking about a game they'd played, which in hindsight was probably Werewolf the Apocalypse.
Okay.
And I thought, that sounds amazingly cool, playing a game without needing models and things. Yeah. And so I went and wrote a game, which initially, after a very brief bit of research, I called RPG, the role-playing game. But get this, RPG didn't stand for role-playing game. RPG stood for, here it comes, Resistance and Protection Givers, which was the name of the quasi-government agency you worked for.
Wow.
It's better than the name the game was later given out, and you know this, don't you? Because later on I just called it Legionnaires, which is a really horrible waterborne disease, and that was nothing to do with what the game was about. It was still really poorly chosen.
You just didn't really know what it was. It just sounded cool, didn't it?
Yeah, and to be fair, I mean, you played a bunch of Legionnaires, so always Google stuff, but it's the lesson there.
Yeah,
but
it
yeah,
wasn't
so
Google at the time.
no, it wasn't.
So
No,
in your defence,
so I should have asked Jeeves. Alpha Listed. There we go. Ask
AOL?
Jeeves. Yeah. But anyway, so the point is, we've got if we run out of time later, I can absolutely, or if we don't have enough stuff for the time we've got, rather, I can have a look at Legionnaires and see how bad it really is. I do know that there is an extended section of colour text at the back, and reading it made me want to shrivel up and die. So that was like 2 lines.
Yeah, but at the same time, I think it's worth pointing out though that I think the value in it is not only that it's hilarious.
I mean, mainly that it's hilarious.
Mainly that it's hilarious, but also the fact that the way that you have approached your journey into games design has been that you have just continuously written games.
Pretty much.
And it's like, I mean, I'm not an artist. I'm not. I worked a lot with artists, and I saw the genius. I can do like doodles. Like I don't do art. I just do like doodling. But the thing is, I wouldn't consider myself to be an artist. But when people ask me, because of the fact that I work with a lot of artists and saw their genius from afar, and sort of managed to bask in their glory a little bit, just in their glow. People always ask, well, how do you get better? And the one thing that I always picked up from them was you draw every single day.
Yeah.
And you draw as many different things as you can, as often as you can. And I think it's the same with games design. Like you have just been innovating and trying to create games, even when you had no idea what you were doing. You just did it and then made another one and made another one. And I there's so many people out there go, oh, I'm a games designer, and then they've like come up with.
It's the equivalent of when people say, I want to be a writer, but they never actually write. It's just,
or they write half of one book and then they just keep going back to it and dabbling. You need to just
better to do a thing and it be naff. And learn from it than not do anything. We've got a person in the comments. Look, it's Kieran. Hi, Kieran.
Hi.
Hello, Kieran. Hi, Waterborne RPG Death. There we go. Yeah.
Well, that could be the name of the next iteration. That
would be the tagline, the strapline on the box. So goodness me. So actually, it is a good segue. So Kieran has been pretty active on the Facebook group for Hellboy the board game. So check that out. It's like a seamless dive into our next topic.
We totally planned it.
Precisely. So stuff has been going on lately. We can't not talk about Hellboy the board game.
I know, it's been so exciting.
You sounded mildly sarcastic there.
No, I genuinely didn't mean to come across that way. I'm genuinely excited about it. I might be a bit tired, but I'm genuinely actually blown away by the response that it's had.
It has been astonishing. I want to give everyone a quick recap of Hellboy. Do you want to check if we've got any more questions on
yes, Twitter? I'll do some tweeting.
So Hellboy the board game, funded in 18 minutes. That was a £100,000 goal. Now that was interesting. So I didn't notice at first that this has been run in British pounds rather than American dollars, which due to exchange rates and things, pounds look less impressive than dollars initially. So I was thinking, Dead Zone did like 1.4 million, I think, dollars, which actually translates as some number of pounds. But the fact is that in the first 18 minutes, it had £100,000 raised, and in the first day, it did something like £440,000 pounds with 5,000 backers. Now, Mantic's biggest Kickstarter before that for number of backers was Dungeon Saga, I think, with about 5,500. So this was nearly on that on day one. It's currently on just under £1 million.
Yep.
With 28 days to go, I think.
Yeah.
I'm sure Kieran can correct me now. But yeah, it's a fair bit of time to go, and 10,000 backers. 10,000 people want to play this game.
It's incredible.
What's that about? So I've never got used to it. I mean, I used to work for Games Workshop designing games there, so I've done. That's one thing I didn't do, was it?
No, you didn't talk
told
about
me to. In fact, I trailed off halfway through talking about.
Yeah, you just started talking about Legionnaires.
Story of my life. But yeah, so after working at Mantic, as a community manager and doing some design work on things, I went on to Games Workshop, where I worked on various games for the main studio. So this is in the same place Sophie was, in books and box games as it became known. So I did work on 140,000 Warhammer before we blew it up. I was part of the blowing up team. Age of Sigmar, and I did some standalone games. So I started off with the Horus Heresy Betrayal at Calth, which was like a squad-based tactical shooter thing. Warhammer Quest Silver Tower, which wasn't originally called Warhammer Quest. That came in later. The tagline was kind of added at a later date, which of course added no pressure at all. And then Gorchos. And after that, I went and did some work for Specialist Games, which was a newly reformed team, having been a thing in the 90s. And I worked on Necromunda Blood Bowl and a little game called Adeptus Titanicus, which hasn't come out yet.
Still hasn't come out.
Hasn't come out yet.
So 2 years it's been now?
Yeah. But my point is, all that time working there, I still have not got used to the fact that I can release a thing and 10,000 people can go and play it, and you know, it's baffling. The vast number of people who want to play these games is really cool. And like I say, for Hellboy, just the Kickstarter backers is already 10,000. So how many people is it going to hit overall?
Yeah, it's really exciting.
It is.
And I think as well, what it shows is that there's a real desire for like games that encapsulate a particular feeling, because what you've done a lot with Hellboy is to try and really capture the story of Hellboy. Not just the dungeon crawl, not just something with a theme slapped on. You're genuinely trying, you know, you've from day one been pursuing that. What does Hellboy mean, and how can I make it feel like you're reading a comic?
Precisely.
Which is incredible. Because I think people have really picked up on that when they've been watching the how to play videos and things like that, which is great. I think that shows a really big desire within the gaming community, I think.
One of the things that I was actually chatting about yesterday with some people, I'll tell you where I was in a minute, because we can talk about that as well. I was talking about the fact that with the games market being so crowded now, I was talking about role-play games. This applies to board games, anything else really. The market is so crowded that you have to find your niche. You know, making something generic isn't good enough anymore.
No.
Which baffles me a little bit, because Fantasy Flight have just released their Genesis roleplay system, which is a generic roleplay system with no setting attached. And I was really surprised when I saw that, because to me, if I want to play a generic system, make up my own thing, my own setting, there are so many of those already out there. I mean, Fate is the big one. You've got the Apocalypse World engine, which is so easily mutable. But
I think the thing is with Fantasy Flight, they're so big, they have a much greater reach.
Yes, yeah.
So
what it becomes, it basically, because it's an accessible one of those. It's a gateway role.
It's a gateway, yeah. And the thing is that people who play Fantasy Flight.
Yeah.
I always say Fighting Fantasy instead. I don't know why I have a constant mental block on it. But when people play Fantasy Flight games, they may not have had any exposure to other role-playing games. And so then they go, oh, this is a really accessible game. And then once they dip into the gateway realm of role-plays, then they'll probably find things like Fate.
Yeah, it's like D&D, I suppose. D&D, there are so many games that do D&D better than D&D, but I still like it because it's accessible. It's not even that accessible, but it's the one that everyone knows. You know, it's the equivalent of, 40k. It's a sprawling game, and there are a lot of miniatures games that do a lot of what 40k does better. But it's the one that's on every high street.
Yeah, and it's had 30 odd years of development of the IOP, and so therefore it's kind of rooted in a lot of your memories and your thoughts and your ideas about what a universe like that should be. And those things appeal. And I think if you've been playing Fantasy Flight games for 10 years, 15 years, then you're going to have more faith in that system. Yeah,
absolutely.
So, but I can see it from their perspective, but it is still a bit of a shock. But as you were saying, you need to find a niche. And I think that, Hellboy has definitely found its niche.
Yeah, and I think, like I say, so it feels like it's, there are some elements that will be familiar. You're walking around a map, punching dudes. But that is interspersed with a lot of narrative, a lot of story. And actually, it's one of the things I think the demo video didn't show off as well as it could have done, because it was focused on trying to show the rules off. In hindsight, I should have focused more as much on the narrative and how that comes across in the game. We've got some words from Kieran. People are really keen on theme now. There are so many games now that good mechanics are easy to find. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. People can afford to look for a game that gives them the theme they like and lets them feel that part of the world.
Yeah.
Precisely. We were actually chatting a while ago about the idea of game mechanics versus theme and the point at which things come in. And there are some designers who will design entirely theme first. So Ryan Knizia is one that we spoke about earlier.
Exactly. Yes.
He's a German board game designer who I think lives in Essex currently. Not going to give away his address or anything. 37 Board Game Street. No, he is famously prolific, but he designs mechanics first, and then almost like doesn't care about the theme.
No, he sort of gives it to a
whatever,
publisher.
Whatever you want them. We played a couple of his that are pretty abstract.
Yeah, I mean they're fantastic games. They're really, really enjoyable games, but they have some really weird or like just incongruous to the.
You can tell the theme's been added as an afterthought. Whereas,
exactly.
I mean, for me, when I design a game, I like to put the theme front and center. And so with Hellboy, it was a nice, I kind of had some guiding principles that I came up with based off the theme and wanting to kind of evoke the feeling of the comics. In fact, I can actually, here we go, I can show my design principles.
They're actually blue tacked to the wall here.
Yeah, amid a load of other stuff that's really secret. So I'm not going to show off the entire wall. But here was my Hellboy that was on the wall the entire way. I did this. I'm really hoping this isn't actually mirrored on the stream. Kieran, can you read this? Is my question to you. But it says, my design principles were the things that I wanted the game to be about. I wanted there to be a constant feeling of threat and peril. A steady pace, no getting bogged down. Because I played some, and to be fair, Silver Tower does this sometimes. Yeah. Where you do some bad dice rolls, you can suddenly find yourself against like a dozen bad guys.
Or you're just wading through them, like you're killing them at a good pace, but there's just hundreds of them, so you're just like, oh.
Yeah. Hey, you can read it. Brilliant. Tough decisions, which I mean, if you watch the Let's Play video that Blackjack Legacy did with us, Andy from there, we had a game in here actually, and there are some. Have you watched that yet? Yeah. There's some real kind of points that are like, do we press on or do we hang around?
And I think the way that the whole game has been created is that it makes you make that choice all the time. Yeah. You're constantly having to go back to those decisions, and tough choices are fun. There's actually, just before I forget, that's our office lights because we've been sitting down for too long. There we go.
Great, lovely.
Hey, we're so professional here and classy. Yeah. Hooray! We can edit that out, right?
So yeah, the other two, should I finish these up?
Oh yeah.
So yeah, the other two were Scary Risk versus Awesome Reward. So everything wants to be big and noticeable. I'm really not a fan, and I'm guilty of it sometimes, but I'm not a fan of mechanics that are kind of zero sum, where it feels like you haven't achieved anything. You do a thing and it gives you a little tiny +1 or something. You want things to feel like they're really meaningful. So that was that. That thing there, and building to a big climax, which anyone who's seen the game will know that's absolutely built into it. But yeah, go on. Have you got some questions from the Twitter sphere?
I'm not sure how you pronounce this.
Can we say Twitter sphere? Is that a thing that we?
I don't know. Is it like trademarked or something?
Let's do.
So do you start designing from the mechanics or the theme? So we've already been talking about that.
Haggai K.
That's what I was going to say. Hacks 5 with 3 X's.
Yeah. Do you start designing from the theme or mechanics? Yeah. I mean, for me, it's all about the theme. And I mean, I'm sure I'm going to design a game at some point where I go completely against this. But generally, when I sit down to design something, and I know you've gone through this recently as well. I will sit and just devour as much sort of similar stuff as I can. Generally not board games, it'll be things that are other media, other ways that thing's been interpreted. So when I did Gore Chosen, which is a gladiatorial fighting game in the Age of Sigmar setting, I watched all the fight scenes from Gladiator, a load of fight scenes from Spartacus, anything that kind of had gladiatorial pit fighting, that kind of thing. And trying to think, what are the key beats of a fight? What are the things that matter? What are the things that are going to be interesting points to hook a game into? And yeah, similarly, and with Hellboy, a big part of that was reading as much of Hellboy as I could. I'm still going through it because there's a hell of a lot. Part of that is as you're going through it, sometimes something will just stick out and you go, oh, that should totally be a mechanic or something. I think I've always been lucky in that regard. I've always found inspiration quite easily and stuff. But I think I
will attest to this. We have literally been in a supermarket shopping in outside of the exciting realm of Needy Cat Games, and James will be like, "Oh, there's a really good like card game in here for picking your groceries." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And he'll be like, "Oh, there's this really." Oh yeah, like you can have it where like you have to get like what's on your list, but there's loads of different choices and you've only got a budget, but you've got to make decisions on the fly, and maybe there's a swapping mechanic, and everything in his world is seen in that filter of how could I make this into a game mechanic, which I don't know if everyone's who does games design is filtered that way, but I like to think of it like like in Sherlock Holmes, if you've seen the most recent Sherlock series, and like Sherlock looks around the room and like little bubbles of words come up going, oh, there's a ruffled carpet.
It's exactly like that, but with
exactly
dice.
that, but with dice and cards and meeples everywhere in your brain. But yeah, so you gamify a lot of things.
Yeah.
Like you're always looking for the patterns, which is really interesting. To see from an outside perspective at least.
Yeah. So that's kind of how I design. Now you've done your first bit of game design.
Yes, I've been dabbling.
So you're doing some development.
Yes, I'm doing some development. I have been doing. I've been helping you develop games for well over a decade.
Yeah.
Every time James writes a game, I've been playtesting it, giving feedback on it. So it's not like I'm completely raw to these things, but I do a similar thing, but generally when I'm sort of stuck. So when I've been looking at doing games, I do tend to look at other games that are out there, and I do a lot of reading. So for Bonefields, I did a lot of stuff like rereading like the War of the Ring and the Lord of the Rings rulebooks, because they're small miniature skirmish games. Bonefields being a small miniature skirmish game. Reading the Wild West skirmish game, having a look at various board games, reading up on what other people have done.
Yeah.
Largely just to get an idea of potential pitfalls or tropes. And I like to do something that's a bit different. If everyone does it where they go, each model pairs off and that's just a standard trope, it's like, well, is there anything that's more interesting that we can do around that? Does it have to be that way? And I like to try and look at a game in terms of what's happened before and question all of those assumptions. And
I think you ended up with an interesting system, like a dice pool kind of idea. And I'm not saying it done in that particular way.
No, not in a skirmish game that I've seen before.
Yeah.
But maybe there has been. But I think as well, something that I had to learn really, really quickly when starting to develop games from the ground up is that nothing is truly original anymore.
Oh no, absolutely, no, nothing. I try to get one solid new idea in a game. That's what I aim for,
or even just an innovative way of using a certain thing, or a combination of different rules mechanics, because you're never going to get something which is this has never been seen, because there is so much out there, as Kieran very articulately said. What's this we've got? Roll 4+ for chips, roll -1 for broccoli only. What's this?
Roll a 1. That's what you're talking about. Shopping mechanics.
Oh, shopping mechanics.
Roll a 4+ a chip. I got a 1, got broccoli.
Yeah.
You'd like that. Sophie likes broccoli.
I do like broccoli.
Also, the other day, Sophie bought willingly a pack of dark chocolate digestives.
Don't you start hating on the dark chocolate digestives. Okay, I'm not going down that route.
There were milk chocolate ones right there.
I know, but I wanted dark chocolate ones.
Yeah.
I told you I could buy you another pack, but we're not going to go into that. But yes, so I think when you accept that maybe nothing you do is truly original, but what you can do is make your thing as original as you can. And I think then it's about originality in feel rather than originality in design.
I think it's true of any creative endeavor, isn't it? I mean, how original can music be these days?
Exactly.
And so much music. How original can a novel be? The trick is to find the thing that you want to do interestingly in this particular one and do it. And I think actually, it's one thing that actually haunted me a lot for a long time was, excuse me, the desire to be original. It haunted me through my all kind of early creative things that I did, even go back to school, and I'd have projects, and I'd utterly scupper my chances because I didn't just want to do the thing that everyone else was doing. And the lesson in just knuckling down and doing something and making it as good as you can do, rather than trying to be groundbreaking and break the mold. You can't do it without you can't do anything creative without stepping on something else's toes.
No, I think that's fair. And the thing is that what happens is you also end up doing things that are just different for the sake of being different. And actually, a lot of mechanics and a lot of standard tropes exist because they are the simplest and the easiest way to do something. Like if doing, I don't know, an attack roll and then an armor save seems really tropey, but actually that's the most effective way of reflecting in a quick fire way that kind of battle. That's why everyone does it, because it is the most efficient way, and you've got to think about the experience of the gamer, not as you as the creator and going, well, this is completely unique as an experience. It's about how is someone feeling when they play that game, and if their feeling is then that is not what you want in a game.
I think you've got to think, is it worth spending all my time trying to reinvent the wheel, or do I do something interesting, leave that part where it is and do something interesting? But I think it's like there's a big thing back when, so after Grand Theft Auto went 3D on the PlayStation, whatever else, there was a little spate of similar style driving games. And I remember this as a teenager, it really annoyed me whenever one of them would come out and would change the control system, because it was just a given thing that your right trigger would be your accelerate, and your left trigger would be your brake, and I think your right button or circle maybe was the handbrake turn. And occasionally games would just change it, and it would become almost like a convention, and then they would do it differently, almost to show that they're different.
Yeah.
But all it did was, it was really jarring. You'd go to play it and you'd have to relearn. But it's recently, and this is a video games thing, but recently I've been playing a lot of Subnautica. It's a game on the PC. I'm playing on the Xbox 360. No, Xbox One.
Xbox 360 is not the new one,
no,
James.
360 is bigger than one. Now I've lost track. But anyway, playing on there, and you got one sector. It's like an underwater exploring building game. I then started playing a little bit of Sea of Thieves, which is a saily pirate boat game. And the controls, again, are very different. And it was really jarring. And it's like, can we just pick one thing, everyone?
Yeah.
And I think, and that applies to what we do, in that sometimes there are just ways that players have understood the way to think. It's like the number of times people have designed a miniatures war game clearly aimed at the kind of the 40k fantasy, that the GW market, and have used centimeters. Now, obviously, I'm not talking about Europe necessarily, but in people, in English printed things, even this country, which is a metric country, wargamers just like inches. And
we've been doing it for so many years, and it is really jarring when you're like, oh, that's 15.5 centimeters.
Yeah.
What? But, I can't envision how long that is.
Yeah.
Like,
and I don't use inches for anything else in my life, but for that sort of war game, it's what feels right. And so when you see someone trying to do something different, it can feel quite jarring. We had it with Titanicus, because Epic used centimeters, and so we were like, oh, which way do we go? And the immediate answer was, we just do it in inches, because that's what everyone knows.
And people are comfortable with it. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that you just do the same tropes over and over again without even thinking about them. And I think there's that thing of like, everything has to be questioned, but don't just change it for the sake of changing it. There has to be a reason behind it. So I try and think about like theme, and look at the things that are within that theme already, and then question, is that the right way to do it?
Yeah.
And be realistic. And if it's like, actually, that is the right way to do that thing, but then looking at other things and going, is that the right way to do it? No, that's just the easy way to do it, or that's just the way they've done it. That doesn't mean that's the best way or the right way. And I think on the other side of that, though, is being willing to change it at a later date. No rule is written forever.
Yeah. Yeah,
the moment you put something down, you need to be willing to destroy it with a heartbeat.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you've recently been putting things apart left, right, and centre, haven't you? So.
Yeah. I'm currently doing a game at the moment which I can't talk about because it's under NDA, sadly. But
long story short, it's a game that I did some initial design work on, so we've been doing some development work on, and you reached a point yesterday where you're like, actually, all of this needs to change.
All
of this is wrong.
Yeah, because originally I was just tweaking and putting in feedback from our playtesters. And actually I was
sometimes you need to use a JCB rather than a trowel.
Yeah, exactly.
You can finesse and do and polish as much as you like, actually, until you get the foundations right.
Yeah.
And I mean, every time I design a game, there is a point, and I'm sure this must be true of many designers, I think, many novelists or whatever else, there is always a point where you go, that all is wrong, I need to start again. And what you do is you knock it down, but you rebuild so much quicker because you've already been down these paths, and you know where stuff is, and you get to a really satisfying place really quickly. I've just been doing this actually today with a different game, which I think we actually can talk about a little bit, which is quite exciting, isn't it? I'm not going to say too much because it's early days still, but I've been given the go-ahead to announce this is an exclusive. Kieran, you're going to be the first person to know this. So don't go and tell the entire world.
Just talking about originality and agreeing with us. Thank you. Kieran,
so the next thing we're working on, which actually is hiding behind some of these post-it notes up here, I'm not going to show you, is a game that I'm working on with. I would put a drum roll here, but don't do it because you'll shake the camera and it might fall over. We're such a low-tech thing. The camera is balanced on 3 board games. Because it's the thing we had most of.
Yeah. I'll take a picture and I'll put it on Instagram so you can see.
But yeah, this is a game we're working on with Mark Gibbons, who is a very well-known artist.
Very talented.
Who did a load of classic Games Workshop stuff. If you Google Mark Gibbons Games Workshop art, you'll see a load of really iconic pieces. I mean, you obviously worked in the art team. I know all the guys there.
Yeah, I'm familiar with his work previously, but also he's done some great stuff.
Yeah, and more recently he works for Blizzard, who make World of Warcraft, StarCraft, that kind of thing. I think he's doing various bits and pieces for them. I know he did a novel cover recently. But Mark is just one of these annoyingly lovely people. He's really, really nice, really friendly.
Desperately talented and really lovely. So you can't even resent him for
it. Yeah, absolutely. But he, so we kind of, through some mutual acquaintances, got together because he wanted to design a game, which we're now doing. I'm eking it out, aren't I?
You're doing the annoying thing. You might as well be doing a Davina McCall and waiting 20 seconds and then shouting it. So just tell people. Tell the people.
So yeah, the game we're doing is I don't know if I can say the name. The name isn't final anyway.
No,
so I'm not going to say the name, but I'll tell you what it is. The game is all about playing as a group of roadies for a heavy metal band. So it's very tongue-in-cheek. It's kind of styled a little bit almost like fantasy adventure style. So the roadies, almost like a mythical bunch of adventurers, and you're trying to stop. So you're working cooperatively in the game, and you're trying to stop a heavy metal gig from tearing itself apart. Yeah. So you've got basically a bunch of crazy events going off. Everything from speakers exploding to illicit substance abuse,
or crowd diving and just everything really. People, fans getting up on stage and
basically you're playing, as I say, the roadies trying to stop that from happening. It's a
co-op game.
It's kind of in the vein of something like Pandemic or Ghost Stories, that sort of thing. Big thing for me is there are no miniatures involved, which is lovely because I've worked almost exclusively on miniatures games up to this point, and it's so nice to step outside of that design space and do something different. So yeah, that is really cool. I'm really happy about that, and it's in development. Working on it as like a 2-man project is lovely because unlike when you're working on something big, I mean Hellboy as an example, or anything in Games Workshop, you're one cog in the machine. Everything goes a lot slower, so you do a bit of work, you'll hand it over, and a few weeks later you'll get some feedback on it or something. And also there's a lot less back and forth. Generally one person does a whole load of design or art or whatever, and then gets passed over to the other team. Whereas with me and Mark, we're each doing a few hours on a thing, sending it over, getting some sketches back or some rules back. Had a playtest on Tuesday, which went pretty well. I mean, the game wasn't in a great place, but I got loads of good notes out of it.
But you've just gone through the same process of just completely ripping it apart and rebuilding it, but doing it in a really positive way.
I mean, when you got into work this afternoon, I was hunched over a spreadsheet, yowling in frustration.
Elbows deep in a spreadsheet, elbows deep.
You know what? It feels really satisfying. The game's in a really good place since doing that. So I feel like it's going to be really exciting. It's going to be really cool. It's going to be a bit different. Again, it's very theme heavy. It's going to be dripping in artwork because Mark's really excited about it. He's got loads of ideas. We've got loads of ideas for it.
And it's really nice to have that. It's a collaboration rather than like you write the rules, he's making the art, and one of you is making it to match the other. You're actually both the two things are informing one another, which is such a nice, freeing sort of process to be in.
That's it. So we probably already said too much. So but that's the next thing we're working on. Who knows when it'll see light of day, but that's quite cool, isn't it? We can tell people we've made an announcement. Yay!
Yay!
So that's that. What else are we working on? We've got that. You're still working on Bonefields?
I'm still working on Bonefields. I'm just finishing off the leveling up mechanics because it will have a campaign mode where every time you play games, you'll be able to level up your war bands and then get better and cooler and do cooler things with them, and expand the kind of things you might have, like werewolves, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. Who doesn't like a werewolf?
Yeah, exactly. I've got some really cool scenarios that I've written up to expand that campaign mode as well. And who knows where that will go?
Yeah, I think Chris is coming up for a playtest there at some point.
At some point, yeah.
You're currently, as I say, pulling apart the game that we're only referring to as Project Blue. We're secretive. We've also got Project Black that I'm working on currently,
which is top notch.
Who knows what that is? Top notch, top secret.
Yeah.
Top quality.
Yeah.
It's that's good. That's quite that's actually going really nicely. I'm looking forward to showing that off to people. Project Skull. Because we ran out of colours. Lots of games are kind of in the mix at the moment.
They are. And we've got some ideas of what we'd like to do.
Oh yeah, we've not actually covered up our little poster of ideas.
Oh, poster of ideas, which I'm sure you can't read from that distance. I mean, I wouldn't have a problem with telling people sort of things that I would love to do, but like I've got ambitions of doing, but I don't think I'll ever actually do. So
Top banana, correct.
Top banana.
Yeah. Mark did loads of dwarf art.
Yeah.
Really cool stuff.
Should we have a look and see if the Twitter sphere
let's have a look. Let's see what we've got
Instagram or anything has got stuff going? Let's have a look. Fisty Glue Man asks, is it true that neither you nor Sophie are actually cats? James, I'll pass that one to you.
I cannot confirm nor deny whether Sophie is a cat. I'm not a cat.
I'm not a cat, but I often have a very heavy cat placed upon me.
The only reason we keep him around is for promotional reasons.
Really? I mean, he's just
the worst. Laurie, if you're watching this, you cursed us when you gave us a cat.
Two. There were two cats, James. We have two.
Yeah, but
two
the other one's
cats.
all right. The other one's fine.
Yeah, but you can't then just refer to it when you gave us a cat. He gave us the cats, one of which is cursed. So, oh my goodness, we are so low. Come on.
What is going on?
I think I just need to run around a bit in this office. Maybe we should.
It's telling us something, isn't it? It's like,
it's just like, go home.
Yeah,
go home. Right, I'm just checking Instagram to make sure there's no more there.
Cool.
Sorry, entertain the masses, James, while I'm doing this.
So a moth walks into a podiatrist's office. No,
don't do that. Don't do that.
Okay, I won't.
No.
If do Google the moth joke, it's one of my favourites.
I don't think anyone should really. I think you'd just be taking away another 5 minutes of their life.
Nothing else.
Nothing else.
You told me we had some questions earlier. What happened to those?
Well, I just asked you the two questions in the plural. There were two of them. Cool. I was assuming we'd get more. Kieran.
We have a question. What is the IP you would love to do a game for, and what sort of game would it be? Area control, drafting, combat, competitive, etc., etc. Don't pick one that's already made. Well, actually, you've got a great idea.
I've been thinking about this. I would love to do a Letters from Whitechapel style hidden movement game, but and it's set in a very similar era where you're actually playing the sort of cast members of Penny Dreadful.
Which I've not seen, so I'm taking you over for this.
And that you're basically trying to pursue a murderer.
So sum it up for us. What is Penny Dreadful?
Penny Dreadful is a series of characters based on the Penny Dreadfuls. So you've got Frankenstein's monster and various other things.
And Penny herself.
Penny herself is like a witch cursed demon followed.
Is there a character called Penny?
Oh no, there's not. No, I'm thinking of there's no Penny. But no, the main character is this woman who's like a witch who's like
followed by
supernatural stuff, werewolves
in like a Victorian-ish era.
There's a big game hunter who's got lots of money. It's all just a very sort of tropey stuff. But I would love to do that license because I have this whole vision of it being like hidden movement where a murderer is getting away, and you're doing a co-op game where you're trying to pursue them. There's also police maybe patrolling the board, and then you've got to constantly decide whether you want to flip into your like other supernatural form, but once you start doing that, then the police are starting to pursue you if they come across you as well. So you've got to do this whole balancing act. Do you use your special forces to like help you out, or do you not? And so there's a whole kind of vague concept in there that I had like as a massive brainwave when I was playing Letters from Whitechapel, and I'd love to do that game. I'd love to. So there's one idea.
So I've actually got one which has stopped me recently watching a TV series because I couldn't concentrate on watching it because I kept thinking, oh, that'd be a really good mechanic. It was happening again. And I've not got the brain space to work on another game now. But basically, so this initially started when I was reading the book The Martian, which then became the film The Martian. There have been a couple of good games about building colonies and terraforming planets, that sort of thing. So I've played a fair bit of Robinson Crusoe, which is, you know, you're playing a bunch of castaways on an island. And I'd like to do something similar to that, but on another planet, and have the idea that you have a crashed spaceship. You have certain bits that you've initially salvaged and make it like a worker placement kind of game. And the idea you're trying to build up to, you know, survive until you're rescued. And you maybe initially have some bits that you've, you know, you're living in the wreckage of the ship, but that might have things like the ventilator fan always blocks up, so you have to every round sort of to go and unblock it. And so you start off with this very small set of things, but every time you do stuff, you're working out, do you want to have, you know, make short-term decisions for immediate survival or long-term benefits that will help in the long run. That kind of nice gritty decision-making thing.
So it's decision-making, worker placement, but also with an element of oh god, what's that contraption-making game? It's going to really bother me. Where you're creating some insane contraption by a scientist with the cards.
I have no idea.
Oh my goodness, I'm going to have to Google it, and then I'll put it in the comments of the YouTube.
Mad scientist contraption buildy game with cards.
Yeah.
But anyway.
I played it like a decade ago,
yeah,
so it may be completely different, and I dreamt that.
Yeah.
So there we go.
But so that's the thing. But also, the main. But then recently, I've been watching Lost in Space. I started watching. I can't watch it anymore because I keep seeing things in that and thinking, oh, that'd be an amazing thing to put in there, you know. But yeah, that sort of thing would be really cool.
Yeah.
Kieran said, yeah, you need to get that new Robinson Crusoe rule. But yeah, the other day I played Robinson Crusoe for the first time in about 6 months to a year in a board game cafe with some friends, thinking I know how to play this, and I'd sort of forgotten some of the details. It's one of those games that's actually very simple once you get into it, but the rule book, that one in particular, was written not in the most straightforward way.
Yeah.
And yeah, there have been updates since, and especially I think the Esoteric Order of Gamers, who they do, I don't know if it's one person or many, it sounds like many, but I think it might be one. They do summary sheets and cheat sheets for games. I've done a couple of games that I've made, and they're way better than anything I've written. So I might have to get them involved in doing some things we do in future, to be fair. But yeah, they did a really good guide to it. But it sounds like the actual designer has put together a more clear rulebook for Robinson Crusoe. But yeah, Kieran pointing out the fact that is what I need. But yes, that's some IPs we would like to have a go at. We've got about 10 minutes left of this. That'll make it a nice round hour. Would you like to look at some Legionnaires?
I don't know.
So what I'm thinking, I'm going to do an Into the Vault. Into the Vault? In the Vaults? I forgot what it's even called. We'll do one of those on this, but I thought a little preview, a little snippet, a little taster. So one thing I can't do on this is show the screen.
I have a request then.
Yeah.
Can you just read out some of your backstory then? Yeah, some of your.
Yeah, all right. I'll work up to it.
Okay.
Kieran, yeah, one person in Universal Head who is the one that does the Esoteric Order of Gamers. He's excellent. He is, yeah. In fact, it's a one-man operation. Is what a fiend, basically.
It's incredible.
Yeah. People shouldn't be allowed to be that creative. Yeah. But no, I mean, it's thing is, I've always said writing a rule book is a whole separate skill set from designing a game. In the same way that developing a game is different skill set from designing a game. It's all different things. And being a good game designer is kind of being a mixture of all of them.
I think that's probably one of the most valuable things that you learned while you were at Games Workshop was not just games design, because you're kind of wired to do games design regardless of where you are, but it was actually the knowing how to communicate effectively those rules.
I'm still getting the hang of it, you know.
I think that's a constant learning thing, and also like as conventions develop and things grow and new games come out, and you suddenly realize, oh, that's a whole different way of doing that, or communicating that one principle. You'll always be learning that and picking that up. So.
It's one of the things that you can always spot. An enthusiastic amateur game designer, someone who's trying really hard to make a really cool thing. One of the biggest pitfalls they make is they start off designing a finished rulebook.
Yeah.
And I mean, we do a bit of rules review and development for people. And one of the things, a couple of times things have come in, it's like, this is actually a very early draft, untested rulebook, and you've laid it out and included artwork. And that's a whole different thing.
You're just making your job harder as well, because if you're writing a rulebook in the order in which you expect someone to read it, you're just not going to be developing those rules as you're writing them. You're just literally putting down a list of things because you feel you ought to have them, rather than should they be there? Should they not? Is that really how it should work?
Right, I'm going to open up
Legionnaires.
My box of Legionnaires. Could you refill my water, please? While I'm finding the file. Thank you. So Legionnaires, I'm going to. Oh, can I? Here we go. I can get a little bit closer to the camera. This is fun. Okay, so what I've got here is the actual. This is the earlier of the files. This one was created. Oh my God, the 20th of March, 1997.
Okay.
That's 21 years ago.
Oh God. Don't make me.
And this is the file is just called RPG.
Okay.
I've actually created a folder with RPG, the Uber Retro role-playing game of embarrassment, which is good. That's a good thing there. So I'm going to open this up now and see what we can find.
I think we should be a little bit kind to. I can't even think how old you would have been.
14-year-old James.
14-year-old James, because I wouldn't be that mean to a 14-year-old.
I would. You didn't know me at 14. I deserve everything I get. Here we go. So for a start, 12-point Times New Roman.
Nice.
Winner.
I like it.
So I'm going to read the opening paragraph.
Okay, can you?
Okay. Oh no, my voice is gone. I can't do it. Oh, my computer's crashed.
Do you want me to do it? I mean, I can do it for you if you're not feeling.
You know what?
enough.
Do you want to do it in your best?
I don't have a best voice for this. I don't think I'm ready for that. But I will read it.
Yeah.
In my normal voice.
Okay.
In my common garden voice.
Do it.
Okay. RPG is a role-playing game set in our own world. Thank God for that.
Yeah.
In a parallel universe. Oh, comma. During our own time period.
If you're going to read it. Don't embellish. It's good enough as it is.
Okay, sorry. The universe is identical to ours. ... Almost. The main difference is that the world is ravaged by gun-toting maniacs and half-dead atrocities.
I feel like I was wearing my influences on my sleeve a little bit here.
Its inhabitants live in constant fear for their lives, except for a handful of brave individuals. The Resistance and Protection Givers, or RPG for short. As a member of RPG, it is your mission to protect Earth from the enemies of mankind who constantly make everyone's life a living hell.
There's a good bit of wordplay there, I think.
Shall we just pick apart that one paragraph?
No, I think we should just move on without any comment at all. This was so to give you some context, I was playing a lot of Doom and Quake around this time. Me and my mate Ollie, who is getting married soon. Congratulations, Ollie, if you watch this. We did a lot of this. We were game design buddies. We used to put games back and forth. There's a game we worked on which is still in my kind of pile of things that I'm still working on. It's been in the works for about 20 years now, and I think one day I might actually release it, which is quite exciting. But so we used to do this, and we were playing a lot of Quake, a lot of Doom, a lot of 40k, all sort of grim, that sort of stuff. And that's, you can see it here, can't you?
I've just read the first line of the next paragraph.
Oh no.
James has literally written at the next paragraph.
Look, every roleplay game needs to have the what is a roleplay game?
I get that. I'm not knocking the title. The what is a role-playing game is a really sensible thing, but we have all played role-playing games before, whether we knew that we were doing it so at the time or not. Now, James, did you not say that when you wrote this, you'd never played a role-playing game?
Entirely true. It's so true. Yeah, but wait, because you haven't read the rest of it.
Of course, they were called things like cowboys and Indians, or cops and robbers, or imitations of television series or movies. That's not role playing.
Hey, have you read the rest of the paragraph? I think you find it goes on to explain in great detail.
We grew up in a world of role play, and it is a basis of our culture, pretending you are what you aren't. Even now, we still play role play games, whether it be playing in paintball parks, acting on stage, or secretly dancing around in our rooms, even down to singing along to songs. Anytime you are pretending to be someone or something you're not really, you are role playing. James, 14-year-old you.
Have you ever wanted to like open a time hole and punch your 14-year-old self?
It just has a little loftiness to it, doesn't it?
It so like does. Yeah.
Well, actually, I think you find that you role play all the time.
Yeah. So I'll go into just grab the things at random. Our example character is called Bob Smith and is a government agent. That's good, isn't it? That's
I like
nice.
that. And Bob Smith, I like that.
We've got various. What I'm really scared of is I'm going to look into this and find something that I still do now, and it's going to make me incredibly self-conscious about what I do.
As I said, there's occasional things which still exist. Oh, excuse me.
You okay?
Yeah, you've actually made me feel, obviously choke on myself just from saying this word. So let's have a look. There's magic.
Of course, there's magic.
Okay,
and alchemy. Yeah, of course, there's alchemy. It's a D6 system. That's good to know. Oh, look, you've got.
Oh my God! What's
special text for monsters. Monsters can be very tall.
It's very thorough.
It really is, isn't it? Yeah.
It really is. Like alchemy may make potions. Sorcerer or sorceress must have magic 7+. May use spells with -2 to the required roll.
Yeah.
You've never played role play.
I played a lot of 40k, and I think. Now this may have been after. So I might be getting my timeline slightly wrong. I think it might have been that I saw that on the bus. I think I wrote the first draft of this. And then I think we picked up Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, the first one.
Mm-hmm.
And we never played it, but we both read it. I think this might have been a redo after that.
Pilot may fly machines.
Yeah, Book of Alchemy. Oh, various potions.
Oh gosh, wow, you've got spells.
There's a full.
Wow.
Yeah, there's a full armory.
What does a relic number do?
I don't know, but why is there a water pistol in the armory?
Oh, quite clearly, so you can put holy water in it.
I'd watch From Dusk Till Dawn. That would be it. That would be exactly what it is. The water blaster is different though from the water gun. Pistol, sorry.
Yeah, I like it. I like how you've got. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, see?
You've got a laser blaster in that.
I have. There's actually in here as well. There's a boom gun, which I think you find Games Workshop later came out within the Orc Codex. So
totally.
They owe me for that.
You've got a nail gun.
There's ghost hunt weapons, ninja weapons,
there's
of course.
There's an ecto sword. What's that?
I don't know. I don't care to find out. Or an unfinished table. That's good.
Yeah.
I mean, look how much of this stuff there is. There's so much.
So much of it. Oh, right, okay, please.
So,
you're not going to have time. We're actually at time now. So just read the first.
I'm going to read the first line. The first paragraph.
The first paragraph. Just read with some of
This is the colour text.
Okay.
At the end of this document.
Can you at least do the first line of dialogue as well, please?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. You know what? I'll give you 2 lines because the second line sounds better than the first. Okay. Dax, that's D-A-X-X, because all the cool characters have 2 X's in their names. Dax charged into the gun. No, I've read it wrong. The crippling embarrassment is affecting my ability to read. Dax charged into the club, guns blazing. Of course he did. 2 zombies were immediately ripped apart, and another's arm exploded into a cascade of blood and maggots. There's like a little bit Garth Marenghi about this.
Blood.
Maggots. Yeah. And bits of sick. Fury smashed through the skylight, screaming at the top of his voice and brandishing his trademark weapon.
Oh,
a gigantic
Fury's a person.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's not like the concept of Fury.
No, but I thought I read it as furiously, but it's not.
It cleaved the head from a werewolf's shoulders, who collapsed, blood fountaining from the stump that was his neck. Suddenly, oh god, Black Dragon crashed through the window. Oh no! Kicking one skeleton to dust and ducking a blow from another, which crashed into the skull of yet another. Dragon's elbow flew up and crashed through the second's rib cage, and it hinged backwards on its heels. There! Yelled Dax, the bounty hunter, gesturing towards the maggot-ridden form of the Ghost Master at the other end of the club. Could you do Fury's dialogue, Soph?
He's getting away. Let me at him. I'll rip his heart out and chuck it to the zombies.
Shouted Fury, the crazed psychopath. And I think we're done there. And I will say that was read exactly as it was written, wasn't it? That's exactly what it said.
It literally was zombies with a double E. Let me at him.
Yeah.
With a yeah.
So yeah, now we've completely undermined my credibility as a writer.
Look, you actually put the M in as well. Look, written and produced and playtested by James M. Hewitt.
Playtesting was a lie.
Designed on a concept first thought up in late September '96 and finally realised between February and August.
Realised.
1997.
Where's that time hole?
So were you worried that between you writing it and publishing it, someone else would have stolen your idea? So that's why you had to record when you first concepted of the idea.
If you have any queries about this game or would like information on future supplements, please feel free to contact me on. I'll then give my home phone number, because why would you not? And it finishes with thanks and bye for now. Who was I writing this for? I'm closing that now. So there we go. That's that. That's yeah. Kieran, goodbye. Good to see you. Anyone else who watches this later, any of our Patreon backers, anyone else who catches this through the links put up later, thanks for watching. Thanks for being part of the first Needy Cat Hangout. We're going to do this once a month.
Yeah. Hashtag Needy Cat Hangout.
If you want to ask us any questions, get things read out on here. We're going to do this. We're going to, see how it goes. If it's popular, we'll, spring for decent microphones and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Because I know the audio quality is probably not great, but no, thank you for joining us. And,
thank you.
Look out for the first episode of Into the Vault. Second episode of Into the Vaults, where I'll be going through that travesty in some greater detail.
And our Patreon backers will be able to read the first one if you haven't done already.
I'm literally sweating from that.
And now you get to see James go through that in full glory. If you are, and thank you very much for all our patrons out there. You're wonderful, wonderful people, and thank you for helping us achieve our dreams.
And see you next month. Not you. I'll see. I mean, you're here.
Yeah.
But I'll see them next month. Bye, everyone.
Bye.